Where do you come from? Here, I said. Here. These parts. The dead don't go till you do, loved ones. The dead are still here, holding our hands. So my name's Jackie Kay. I was a macker between 2016 and 2021. I love the term macker. It's spelled M-A-K-A-R. And it's really an old 13th century word to describe, I suppose, the closest equivalent is bard. And I think for the first two mackers, there's Edwin Morgan and Liz Lockhead, the word macker hadn't kind of filtered out enough to the Scottish public. And when I became macker, they asked me, did I still want to keep the term? Or did I just want to be known as the national poet of Scotland? And I went, oh no, I definitely want to be a macker. And I'm really glad about that, because there's nothing to beat being on a ferry and Benbecula and the man helping you with the luggage saying to me, am I right in thinking you're a macker? And me going, I am your maker. It made me feel like I had some sort of magical powers. It's a huge honour, and it's so extraordinary to be carved into stone. It's so strange to think of your words surviving you, but in a sense, that's every writer's dream. In my country, I wrote, it's a very short poem, but I wrote it after numerous experiences of people asking me where I'm from over the course of my life in Scotland, and people not actually hearing my Scottish accent because they're too busy looking at my face. As a nation, I think that Scotland does need to look at its attitudes to black people, to its history with slavery, to all of these things, which I talked quite a lot about when I was macker and still talk about. And I think that we need to grow up as a country and be open. And I think some of those shifts and changes have definitely happened. So that's what the poem is about. It's a tiny wee poem, but there's a wealth of stories behind it. In my country, walking by the waters, down where an honest river shakes hands with the sea, a woman passed round me in a slow, watchful circle, as if I were a superstition or the worst dregs of her imagination. So, when she finally spoke, her words spliced into bars of an old wheel, a segment of air. Where do you come from? Here, I said. Here. These parts. Darling, I wrote for my dear friend Julia Darling, who died nearly 20 years ago now. And so I wrote that poem as much to give myself comfort as anybody else. And it turns out the poem has been used lots and lots and lots at different people's funerals. One of the most brutal things about bereavement is that you feel that things have just stopped. So the idea that the conversation continues in some way, whether you're religious or not, just the idea that there's some sort of continuing conversation in your own head, in your own feelings, that whilst you're still here, loving them on earth, they're still here in some way too, through you. Darling, you might forget the exact sound of her voice, or how her face looked when sleeping. You might forget the sound of her quiet weeping, curled into the shape of a half moon, when smaller than herself, she seemed already to be leaving before she left, when the blossom was in the trees and the sun was out and all seemed good in the world. I held her hand and sang a song from when I was a girl. Hail ya ho, boys, let her go, boys. And when I stopped singing, she had slipped away. Already a slip of a girl, it seemed, skipping off. Her heart light, her face almost smiling. And what I didn't know or couldn't say then was that she hadn't really gone. The dead don't go till you do, loved ones. The dead are still here, holding our hands.